So the steps for finding the molecular formula is the first thing you need to calculate the empirical formula if not given to you. Then you need to find the mass of the empirical formula, the molar mass. And then you need to divide the molecular molar mass by the empirical formula molar mass to get a factor. You're going to multiply each subscript of the empirical formula by the factor to get the subscripts of the molecular formula. So let's take a look at an example where we have three different chemicals, and all of them have the same empirical formula, CH2O, formaldehyde, acetic acid, and glucose. These are very different chemicals, but they all have the same empirical formula because they all have the same small whole number ratio. So first, we're given the empirical formula, we're given the molecular mass for each of them. We need to find the empirical molar mass. Well, we only have to do this calculation once because it's all the same. I don't know why I multiplied that by 3. Hold on. Okay, like I said, I'm not sure why I put 3 here, because there's only 1 carbon. So this is going to be 12.01, 2.02, and 16. So our empirical molar mass should be 30.03 grams per mole. And since we have the same empirical formula for all 3 chemicals, the empirical molar mass is going to be exactly the same. Okay, so the next step tells us that we need to divide the molecular molar mass by the empirical formula molar mass. So we're going to divide those, and that is going to be what gives us the factor. Well, our factor here is going to be 1. Factor here is going to be 2, and here it should be 6. So now we need to multiply the factor by the subscripts to get our molecular formula. So for formaldehyde, the molecular formula and the empirical formula is exactly the same. For acetic acid, we're going to multiply the empirical formula by 2. So this should be C2H4O2. And then our last one here, we're going to have C6H12O6. Okay. So we have a couple more examples here to try. This problem tells us that lichens produce a chemical called succinic acid, and the empirical formula for succinic acid is C2H3O2. If the molecular molar mass is 118.10 grams per mole, what is the molecular formula? So we need to find our empirical formula molar mass. So 12.01 times 2 is 24.02. 1.01 times 3 gives us 3.03. And 16 times 2 is 32. Add these together to get our empirical formula, molar mass. That's going to be 59.05 grams per mole. And this is our empirical formula, molar mass. So now we need to take our molecular molar mass and divide that by the empirical formula molar mass that we calculated. And this should give us a factor of 2. So now we need to multiply our subscripts from our empirical formula by 2. So our molecular formula that I'm going to abbreviate MF is going to be C4H6O4. And then our last example says we have a compound with 54.5% carbon, 9.1% hydrogen, and 36.4% oxygen. It has a molecular molar mass of 88 grams per mole, and we want to find the molecular formula. Well, we're not given the empirical formula, so we need to start by finding our empirical formula to start with. So we're given percentages. We're going to assume we have 100 grams, and we're going to convert our percentages to grams, and then we're going to convert those grams to moles. By dividing by the individual molar masses of each of these. So I got 4.538 moles. 9.1 divided by 1.01 gives us 9.010. And then here, .275 moles. So this is my smallest number of moles, so I'm going to divide each of them by that number. And this is 3.96, but that's a number 0.85 or greater, so we can round that to 4. And here I got 1.99. Again, number 0.85 or greater, so we can round that up. So the empirical formula is going to be C2H4O. So now we need to calculate our empirical formula molar mass. So this is going to be 24.02. 1.01 times 4 is going to be 4.04. 16 times 1 is 16. Add those together, and I got a empirical formula molar mass of 44.06 grams per mole. So now we need to take our molecular molar mass of 88.0 grams per mole, divide it by our empirical formula molar mass to get that factor. And this should give us 2. So now we're going to multiply our empirical formula subscripts by 2. So my molecular formula is going to be C4H8O2. Okay. You have practice problems on the next page. The next class we will be doing a review activity over empirical and molecular formulas, and then we will be taking our summative quiz at the end of class. So make sure that you've worked through percent composition, empirical and molecular formulas. Come in and ask me any questions if you haven't. Thanks. Have a great day.